The APFL schedule is complete, the WRL is filled, and we have a new league under the FSA umbrella for 2024. All of this and more in 20 seconds. Hey, fellow fanatics, welcome to the Fanatically Real broadcast, sponsored by Sport Management Solutions, your one-stop shop for athletic communications. If we have anybody out there tonight, please say hello to me. I'm feeling kind of lonely as I'm seeing that there's only nobody out there to say hi to tonight. But if you're watching this now or later, we got a real short show for you this evening. 3 major topics to talk to you about. We said all 3 of them at the top of the show. The first one being the APFL schedule is complete. So with the NFL finishing their schedule last Thursday, me and the director, Toby Keller, got together. We went right to work on the APFL schedule. Wanted to go over how we created the schedule this year for you. And I don't really think there's any better way to do that than if we show you the graphic using last year's champion on there, the Green Bay Cheeseheads. So we're going to go through this a little bit step by step and kind of give you an explanation of how this came to be for the 2024 season. So one of the things Toby and I have worked on over the last 2 years is what are we going to use as the criteria to make our template off of what the NFL does. And one of the first things that we've said that we will do is if we have the ability to have an APFL bowl rematch in week 1, we will do that. And the way that would have to happen is the 2 teams that play against each other in a bowl will also have to be on schedule with a cross-conference game for that year to be able to put them in week 1 for the year. We don't have that this year. However, that will be a week 1 criteria each year if it happens to fall that way. So what we did do, almost impossible to win week 1 for the reigning champions. Well, that's because we have, as you can see there, Chris, because it is your team. I thought this was kind of cool that this happened this way, that we have the inaugural APFL champion, the Seattle Raptors, playing the 2023 champions, Green Bay Cheeseheads, in the first week in a strength of schedule game, which is pretty cool. So here's what ended up happening and how those 2 teams end up matching up against each other. So the first week of the season for us is going to be a strength of schedule game. What does that mean? So in the world in APFL, what we've decided to do is you will play everybody inside your division twice for a total of 6 games. You will play 1 whole division across the conference for 4 games. That's how we would be able to get that APFL Bowl rematch if it ever happened, and that will count for 4. The other 3 remaining games, there's 13 games, 6 plus 4 is 10, it gives you 3 games, are strength of schedule games. It's the same type of thing that you would see in the NFL with strength of schedule, where a second-place team will play the other second-place teams in their conference, but in the other divisions. That makes sense? But instead of doing and matching the NFL, somebody in their infinite wisdom in our year 1 of doing this said that our strength of schedule should be a strength of schedule in our own league. So what happens is since Green Bay won their division last year and Seattle won their division last year, those 2 number 1 teams will play against each other in the first week in a strength of schedule game. So aside from the week 1 matchup of a possible rematch of the APFL Bowl, what we're going to do is match the most game types on the NFL schedule each week, meaning that if the NFL are playing a majority of division games in a week, we will try to play division games. If they were playing cross-conference games, we will try to play cross-conference games. And if they're playing strength of schedule, even though the strength of schedule games don't matter as much for what they have versus what we do, we will still try to match that up anyways. And then on top of that, we're trying to match as many NFL games as we can in a given week. So even though you can't see it on this schedule here because we're only looking at the Green Bay Cheeseheads, the NFL does open up on Thursday night with Baltimore versus Kansas City, which is a strength of schedule game for us in the APFL. That's why week 1 is going to be a strength of schedule game for us. We're also trying to do the least amount of buys for the divisional and for the strength of schedule games, because we want you, those games mean more than the cross-conference games. So we're trying to have as few teams on buys on the weeks that you're playing the divisional and strength of schedule games. But also, what we don't want is we don't want there to be 3 types of games in a row. Like, we don't want 3 divisional games in a row. We don't want 3 strength of schedule games in a row. We don't want 3 conference games in a row. And as we were building the schedule this year, no matter how much we moved it around to try to give the divisional games the least amount of buys, there was going to be a period either at the beginning of the season, in the middle of the season, or at the end of the season where we were going to have 3 divisional games in a row. And we were trying to avoid that. And I think you guys have seen this long enough, and I'm not sure if you really care to see my face or not, but we're going to bring me back up anyways. So there was a point where we were going to have 3 games in a row on the divisional. We needed to shift that up a little bit. One of the other things that we decided that we were going to do, and we kind of accidentally did it the first 2 years anyways, was weeks 1 through 7, we're going to kind of consider the first half of the season, and then 6 through 13, the second half of the season. I said that wrong. Weeks 1 through 7, first half of the season, and 8 through 13, the second half of the season. So what we're trying to do is get, in our case where we have our divisional games, we're trying to get 3 of the divisional games in that first half, 3 of the divisional games in the second half, 2 conference games in the first half, 2 conference games in the second half, and then we fill the strength of schedule games in wherever we can there. One of the things that we are going to definitely do as a week 13 every single year will be a divisional game, and we have come up with a rule of thumb for that. What that's going to look like is whatever the final standings are for your division at the end of the previous season. So for us, 2023, whoever the number 1 and the number 2 team are in the division, they will play each other in week 13 the following week. And whoever the number 3 and number 4 are will play each other in the following week. So what that does is that gives us a definite matchup set of games in the second half of the season that will allow us to mirror that somewhere in the first half of the season in weeks 1 through 7. So with all of that being combined, all of those rules that we just told you, that's how the schedule came up this year. With us having to move one of those divisional games around so we wouldn't have 3 in a row, there will be a total of 6 teams off on buys across all 6 games of your division. There was going to be a way for us to do it where only 4 teams are off, but then that made us have that 3 games in a row thing, so we decided to shift it around. So what you're going to have is you're going to have 6 teams off during your divisional games. You're going to have 6 teams off during your strength of schedule games. And the games that don't really matter as far as tiebreakers and such go, which is your out-of-conference games, but we do rotate those every 4 years, just like the NFL does, so you can play the other side. There's going to be 14 teams off are on bye during those 4 games that you play. So a little bit more on that side, but those games also don't mean as much. Damien out there with us, man, I don't know if you just showed up or not, but I had this beautiful graphic sitting up there. I think maybe you've seen this before. Maybe you're the owner of this, the general manager of this team, don't know. But we're using you as the example of what the schedule is going to look like this year. So going off of everything that we just said, we'll go back over here and look at this real quick since Damien just showed up. So the way it will be for all teams across the FSA, your strength of schedule weeks are going to be weeks 1, 5, and 9. Your divisional games are going to be 2, 4, 7, 8, 11, and 13. And then your conference games, which are the games you play across conference, are going to end up being weeks 3, weeks 6, weeks 10, and week 12. Now, and I hate to say it this way, it is kind of beautiful, right? I hate to say it this way because I don't like to swear on this show, but I really don't know how else to say it. The fuck way that the NFL scheduled the games this year and the way that Thanksgiving fell kind of messed with our bye weeks a little bit more this year, I think, than previous years. our first round of our playoffs will be in week 14 of the NFL season, and there will be 6 teams off in week 14. So we were having a mild discussion about that earlier in Discord about what does that look like for a lot of teams that have the possibility of making the playoffs this year, and what does week 14 look like for them. So hearing it first here, maybe you might want to go check to see what that looks like. Hey JB, how you feeling, man? Give us an update. Make sure that you're doing well. You might want to go check your teams and see what that looks like for your particular team. I hadn't even thought about it even after the NFL released a schedule, and me and the director worked on the APFL schedule for even to look at that to see what it would look like for my team. So I give it a quick glance tonight, and I don't look so bad, but I don't have much of a chance of making the playoffs anyway, so it doesn't matter. So another thing going on in the APFL that I wanted to bring everybody's attention to, we mentioned it during the first broadcast of the season, which was on the 1st of May, 3 weeks ago, that the blind bid waivers were going to begin for the APFL. We did open them up on the 8th of May. Thank you to the director again for making sure that after I had set it up for only running that week, that he got it to set up continuously for us all the way up until the season starts. And in fact, it ran today, and we had some moves as well. So not huge news, but I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that we were moving towards the start of the NFL season with the waiver wires actually happening. Doing good. Started back to work. Wow. Started back to work. Awesome. Write me later on and tell me what's going on with that. Hanley on with us, one of our new general managers, and something that we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. So welcome to the show, man. I appreciate you being here. So one of the things that we are going to talk about that is a little bit bigger news than just the blind bids and the waivers for the APFL is the WRL, the Wizard Redraft League. We got big news there. It is filled again. The WRL is the newly branded league that has been formerly called the Fanatically Real Redraft League. We are now calling it the WRL, which is the Wizard Redraft League. We had lost some commits that had said that they were going to come back this season as we are ramping up to get ready for the 2024 season. A couple of them have said that they are cutting out some of their leagues, or they're just not going to play fantasy anymore, or maybe even going to play with other leagues. So we've had to refill up a little bit more than what we had. Josh on with us as well, one of our other new general managers for the league that we're getting ready to talk about here shortly. I appreciate you being here, man. Let me know what you think about the latest GM card that got sent over to you for the redraft as well. So we're back to 60 teams. And I just mentioned the general manager cards, and you know what? I sure didn't put one over here today for us all to look at. Let me see if I can make that happen real quick while we're talking about it. But here's what needs to happen. I've got Box Out, which is the graphic program that I was also using when I was working for USC Aiken to do graphics with for these general manager cards. And I have some information that I still need from you all. And I'll just go ahead and put mine up there, make it easier for everybody to see. I still need some information from you all. And I need to get that done probably in about the next 8 to 9 days. So if I'm beating you up about this information, please don't beat me up back because I only have the graphic or the program to do the graphics for about 8 or 9 more days, and I'd like to knock them out as much as I can. I think we're sitting on 34 100% complete ones, but a lot of them are just missing little tiny pieces of information. The majority of them really just missing headshots. I've got the number of fantasy years that you have been playing. This is the information that I need from you as you're looking at this. Number of fantasy years that you've been playing fantasy football, and doesn't necessarily have to be with FSA, because we have if you look on the far right of my graphic that's written vertical where it says member since, that's where we'll know how long you've been playing with FSA. So fantasy years that you've been playing, even without FSA, number of league championships that you've won, even if it's not FSA, the average number of years you play or average number of leagues you play each year, and then who your favorite NFL team is. Those are the big things that I need from the majority of you. Like I said, I've only got it for 8 or 9 more days. So I want to get that knocked out. I don't want to do a parade of teams quite yet because we have about 3 more teams that we still have to do logos for. And then the rest of that general manager information that I need from you all, I need to get that from you before I want to do a parade of teams. But what I do have for you, all right, cool. I'm glad you like it. Also, yeah, I think that's it on that. So because Hanley, we got to talk about you on the other league and not particularly this one, because we've got Joshua in both leagues. He's going to be in the redraft and in the other league to be named here shortly. So that's all. So that's what I'm looking for from you from the Wizard Redraft League general managers. As you all know, we're trying to do something a little bit different with the league this year. Instead of you playing inside the geographical location of where you're located against other teams that are close to you, like we've done in all of the years past, we are going to be hiring 5 regional managers this year, and the regional managers will be drafting their team of general managers that will play in their region for good competition. And then, of course, we'll do all of our normal world playoffs where we will crown a world champion. And we're trying to figure out if there is a way that we can do something special for that group of people. That's kind of why we've always wanted to do it where it's geographically close, so we could do something with that group of people. But trying this for a year and see how it works out. So as we're still working on getting those general manager cards done, I do have a timeline for you for all of the things that will be happening with the WRL coming up here shortly. So the family and I are going to take a little vacation here shortly, first-ish week of June. And then after we come back from that, we're going to be recharged for the season. What we're going to do is we're going to open up the league safe for entry fees on the 10th of June. And we're going to leave that open all the way until the 7th of July. That should give everybody 2 pay periods to put money aside for the league, $60 to get in that league. The regional manager interviews, I think we have like 12 on tap right now that are looking to be regional managers. And we are picking 5. We're going to be doing those interviews between the 8th and the 14th of July. I will schedule that with those 12 potentials, probably right after we come back from vacation. And then we are going to do that general manager draft live right here on the broadcast on Wednesday, 24 July. We'll have all 5 regional managers here. We will have them picking. We will have a chart over here on the side. And then everybody will know where they're going to play or who they're going to play with at the end of that draft. Now, it's going to be up to the regional managers and the general managers of that particular group to figure out what, let's say, what do I want to say, under what flag they want to play in for that year, whether they want to use one of the existing regional mascots that we've already got, or if we're going to create another one, use one of the current ones, change the colors on it, whatever it's going to look like. And then after all of that is done, the drafts for all 5 regions are going to happen sometime between the NFL Hall of Fame game and the first game of the season, which is on 1 August and 5 September. We are not going to do all 5 regions on the same day at the same time like we did last year, because that was insane. I was unable to be there and kind of monitor each one of them like I always like to do. So this year we will make sure that they are on separate days, or at least if it's on the same day at separate times, so I can monitor a little bit better. So those will happen somewhere between 1 August and 5 September. So I'll go over that real quick, and then maybe on next week's show, I'll run it as a ticker tape across the bottom as well, so everybody knows. So entry fee will open between 10 June and 7 July. Regional manager interviews between 8 and 14 July. The live general manager drafts 24 July right here on the broadcast, and then we will have those drafts somewhere between 1st of August and 5th of September. We'll schedule that with each one of the regions as we get closer to that. All right, so now it's time to talk about this final topic that we mentioned at the top of the show is the new league that we have going on. So we have this new league that we are starting under the umbrella of FSA this year, called the Fantasy Football Franchise League, the F3L. So this was a brainchild of Matt Furby, who is the general manager of the Ohio River Monsters of the WRL and the New York Mammoths of the APFL. We decided we were going to collaborate on this together, bring it under the umbrella of FSA, and use it as a way of getting new general managers introduced to FSA. We've already got Joshua out there and Hanley that are on tonight. Appreciate you both being here if you're still there. They are two of the new general managers that are taking over these franchises in the F3L and getting them introduced to FSA. So what is the F3L? So first off, some of you might remember this. Let me see if I can pull it up for you real quick. I was working on a logo a while back that looked like this. And this was supposed to be for the fan-fueled fantasy league that we were going to do. And we were unable to get that off the ground. And I thought it was such a cool graphic that I did not want to let it go. So we came up with this kind of a generic name of Fantasy Football Franchise League to make sure it matched that logo. But I can tell you that the league will be anything but generic. So it's going to be 16 franchises. The other thing that we borrowed from an FSA idea as well is all of these teams are going to be defunct professional football teams, just like we had when we had the 6 defunct dynasty leagues before we closed the doors in 2021. So some of those brands are making a comeback. The pieces of this from a competition side, it's going to be 53 player rosters, individual defensive players, multi-year contracts. It's going to have a salary cap, waivers, free agencies, trades, and franchise tags. So it's going to have everything that you would normally have if you were a general manager of a front office of an NFL team, including the salary cap for this league also matches the NFL salary cap. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Able to bring back 2 brands that I've wanted to use for a couple of years now, which is the F3L and bringing back the defunct dynasty teams. We have 15 of the 16 teams already branded. If I had finished that 16th team, we would have been doing the parade of teams tonight. But we have one more team that we need to get done. I'll be working on it. It's at the top of my list for things to do tomorrow. See if we can't get that thing branded. So when we come back next week, we can do the parade of teams for the F3L. So it is a beast. As we are still working through the kinks to make sure that it happens, and it's going to happen. We just got to work through a few things. And I know Matt has been very, very busy with personal stuff this week. So I am in no rush, and I am not rushing him as we are working through this. We were able to work through a few things today that we wanted to make happen, which was I found out as a co-commissioner of the league, which is going to be ran on RSO. It's Reality Sports Online, I think is the name of it. It is a new website to us, but not to some of the members that are in the F3L. They have used it before, but it is designed specifically for leagues like this, and this is all they do. So it is very niche as far as fantasy goes. And I see you say bravo for life. It's funny how much I have to remember which league you guys are in as I was going back and trying to find brands from you guys to move forward in the F3L. One of the things that we wanted to make happen was have everybody pick where they wanted to be with their defunct team and then break up the divisions, 4 divisions of 4 teams each, and what that was going to look like. And like I always do, I did it on Google Maps and had a plan, and somebody else came up and said, well, what about this as a secondary option? So now we're looking to see what that's going to look like. But as a co-commissioner, I was able to go in and get everybody's team name on there and the general manager's names on there today. The only thing I can't do, which is kind of weird to me, is I can't put logos on there for you all. I can do a lot of things, manipulate a lot of stuff, but I can't put your logos on there for you. So I will be asking you guys on Discord probably tomorrow as well. Hey, I'll send you over the logo. Can you please put this on the RSO F3L FSA page for us? So hopefully by next week we will have that last team done and we can do a parade of teams for you on the F3L. I might do it. I hadn't thought about this until just now. I might do it like I used to do for the defunct dynasty leagues, where I would give you a background of that team. And I did those just before we did the draft, but maybe it would be a good way to fill some space for next week's show. Let me back up a little bit for some 2023 information, especially if Anthony or Sean are out there watching. So Anthony, we worked to get your cornhole boards done What I forgot to work with you that night on was the bags. I have not been able to go back and work on the bags still yet either. They are on my list of things to do tomorrow. But Brandon, who is going to be creating the board and the bags, is completely aware of where we're at in the stages. So he's on the standby. We get those bags and everything to him tomorrow, and then you can start getting your boards and bags produced. And Sean, for your shirt for winning the Grey Cup, we just have to wait for the NHL playoffs to be over and the Stanley Cup to be done. And then we get Eric Poole to start working on the graphic for you. That's really what we're waiting on, is for the NHL to get done with their season so we can have his time to be able to do your shirt for you. So I don't want anybody to think that we still haven't forgotten about the 2023 stuff. It's still there, still working it. Everybody who's got all the hands in there, all the poles in the pond, are all tracking what's going on with it. So happening. And then I just want to kind of touch on, again, the possible shows for the 2024 season. So everybody knows that the Fanatically Real broadcast, the staple show, will still be happening on Wednesdays throughout the season. We're thinking about introducing a couple of different new shows, the end of the third quarter, which is going to be a show that will be between the 4 o'clock games and Sunday Night Football, probably around 7:30 p.m., and then we'll roll right into happy hour from there. We're trying to figure out if that really is, as we look across football games from the NFL, Thursday, possibility of Saturday, Sunday games, Monday Night Football, is that really the sweet spot to say that it is the end of the third quarter? I think that's still up to debate, but I think that's when we're going to do it. I think that's what we're going to call it. We've already got an intro for it. I've already worked graphics for it as well last year, because we were going to have this show last year, but of course life happened. So everybody knows that that's coming. I'm thinking about doing a quick little segment at 7:30 on Monday night as well. I don't know what that's going to be called. It's probably going to be more of a, hey, here's the Monday night report. Here's who's still left. Here's who's final, and go through that as quickly as I can. And then the other show that we've been brought up, and we've talked about it on Discord, is the show that we're going to call Band. We're going to get 4 people together and kind of do an around the horn type thing like they do on ESPN. When we get down to the final 2 people, whoever loses that is going to get banned from being able to chat on Discord for a set amount of time. That's kind of why the show is titled that, but I figured that we needed to not just title it, but we had to make sure it meant something as well. So that's what it's going to mean. So we get our 4 people together. We'll probably do it 3 or 4 times throughout the season. I think what we might end up doing is try to see if we can't get one before the season starts to kind of give everybody a taste of what it's going to look like. That way we can take and get some really good constructive criticism about how we should change it as we get ready to do it during the season. We talked about the F3L tonight as a new league for the 2024 season. We have mentioned this a couple of times already. We are going to bring in a new league in 2025 that's going to be called the Next 32. We'll go over that a little bit more as we need to fill airtime going towards the season, because it will be something that we won't be doing until 2025. And then in 2026, we're going to do the ACFA, which is going to be the Alliance Collegiate Fantasy Association. That one is going to be our biggest league yet. I got a really good idea that was presented to me by one of our FSA Hall of Fame members, Rusty James, over the phone the other day about how to make that league even more successful than I want it to be. Had a great idea. More details to follow on that one as we get closer as well. I got to get through a year of playing in the TCAA with Bromy and the boys, because a lot of the elements that he has in that league I'm going to borrow to put into the ACFA. So I want to get through a year of his stuff so I can figure out what it's going to look like for us in 2026. That's it. I want to get out of here in the next 90 seconds to make this at 30 minutes. So here we go. We will absolutely be back next Wednesday on the 29th at our normal regularly scheduled time at 8:30 p.m. East Coast time, because we will not be back on the following week's show, which will be on 5 June, because we'll be on vacation. I'm excited for it too. Nervous as well as we're putting it together, because this is uncharted territories for me. I kind of like to always keep my leagues kind of simple, but more brand them for fun. But this salary contract league is something that I've always wanted to do. In fact, another one of the Hall of Fame members, Jason Hazlett, and I had worked on something similar to this all the way back in Brett Favre's heyday when he was still playing. So it tells you how far back it is that we were working on something like this, but I'm happy to see there is a website that's dedicated to this that will make it much easier for us to do. We just got to get through all those small details, all those little questions that everybody's asking on Discord. So again, we will be back next Wednesday. Don't know what the topics are going to be yet, but they'll come to me. But the following Wednesday, 5 June, we will not be here because we will be on a family vacation. I want to thank the sponsors real quick. Sport Management Solutions, your one-stop shop for athletic communications. Whether it's web maintenance, writing recaps, updating record books, or adding archives, SMS delivers efficiency and value to schools and conferences. So for all your athletic communication needs, trust and contact Sport Management Solutions. Go out and Google them. You will find their website and them on all of their social media. Also have to thank Nature Coast Apparel, the official apparel of the FSA, wearing the hat tonight, and the Recast, the official music of the FSA, and you get to hear the music every Wednesday as we run the opening credits. That music that you hear is by the Recast. So thank you, everybody, for being here tonight, especially to our 2 new guys. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Hit me up on Discord. Tell me what kind of things that you guys, since you're new to this, would like to see in upcoming weeks. That way I can make adjustments to it. And if you're not already following us, like, subscribe, whatever, here to us on the YouTube channel, do that. That way you can get the alerts, not just on Discord for next week's show. And then we will see you next week. You all have a great evening and happy fantasy football. We'll see you next Wednesday.